I will be the first one to tell you that I struggle with procrastination and time management. No matter what I try, the day never has enough time for me to do everything that I want to do. So because of this and because of my experience with procrastinating, I have definitely leaned into the idea that there has to be some sort of secret formula to be able to life hack my way to a more productive schedule. And this isn't just me. With a quick YouTube search, you can find hundreds of videos dedicated to just productivity and how to get better at being productive in your day. A Google search will show the exact same information in a different format. There's articles upon articles about how to be more productive, how to find more time in your day. The productivity industry is so large, in fact, it is estimated that around $12 billion are dedicated to just productivity tools alone, to applications that have surfaced just to focus on this idea of how to get more production in your day. Now, maybe you're wondering, okay, Gabby, so why is this a problem? Why does that matter if we're obsessed with being more productive? And here's why. Many of us often feel that our productivity is linked to our value, something that we cannot get away from, that the more we accomplish, the better we are, the better people that we are, the better parents that we are, the better friends, the better family members. It all is somehow linked to this idea that the more we produce, the more valuable we are. This idea is something that Oliver Burkeman explores in his book, 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. Before I move on, please know I will be talking about very specific things the author mentions. While this is not a novel, there is a specific argument the author builds. So if you do not want to have that argument spoiled, I would say stop watching this video and then maybe go watch my other video, because I only have 2 as of when I post this. It is a book that I found when I was trying to compile a list of 100 books that I wanted to read in the 2025 year. So to take a pause and just to give context for why I'm reading this book and why I think everyone should definitely read this book, I'm going to talk about my own personal goal of trying to read 100 books in the 2025 year. In 2024, I did not prioritize reading. I had a lot of things happening in my personal life and my work life that reading was not a priority. So I read, unfortunately, only 1 book. This was something that definitely hurt me as a person because I've always seen myself as a reader. So this year, with the freshness of the new year and the idea that starting a new year means starting out new goals, I set the very, very unrealistic goal of trying to read 100 books. Now, when I originally set this goal, I knew it was going to be a crazy goal. I had no expectations of actually meeting that goal. So in my previous video, I even said that I didn't think I was going to read 100 books that year, but I felt like setting a ridiculous goal, because if I set a ridiculous goal, then I would have to work really hard at trying to get anywhere near that goal. I've since adjusted my goal to be a little bit more realistic because I didn't think through what 100 books meant. But when I was trying to find books to read and to include in my 100 list of books, I stumbled upon 4,000 Weeks. So this was a book that was recommended by librarians. I checked it out of the library, and it was one of the books that was in the section of New Year, New Me. So I was intrigued. I wanted to have a variety of books that I was reading, and this book would count as the self-help book. So I'm not a huge fan of self-help books. I have said in the past that I hate self-help books. I think they are the type of books that kind of feed on the ego. So somebody writes this book and calls himself an expert on this specific topic, and they don't often help in the way that I think they should help. I find other books, like nonfiction books, books on psychology, or fiction books, much more helpful in me reflecting and figuring out what I need to do to be a better individual. So at first, I was already just not looking forward to reading this book, but I read it because I felt that it was timely to read this book at the beginning of the year to figure out how I would reach all the goals that I had set out for myself. When I was reading this, I found something extraordinary. That this book was actually not a self-help book, that it was more so a philosophy book. In this book, Burkeman argues that the productivity gurus are lying to you. He presents the idea that attempting to life hack your way to doing more and getting your to-do list done is never going to happen. Kind of a bleak opening, and at its basis, it's less of a self-help book and more of a philosophy book, but it is still a very intriguing read. Essentially, Berkman spends the first couple of chapters arguing that everything you want to do is not possible. Everyone gets one lifetime, which he kind of sums up as 4,000 weeks. He says that because not everything is possible, we should all stop beating ourselves up about it and stop causing or feeding into this anxiety that we won't be able to get everything done, because the reality is we won't be able to get everything done. He argues that one of the first things you have to do to get better at managing time like a mortal is that you need to acknowledge that not everything is possible. Once you acknowledge that, you can work on focusing on what is most meaningful to you in your life. It is definitely a humbling book. It kind of breaks down a person's ego and this belief that we can do everything and we're super special and everything is going to get done and we're going to have a super meaningful life because of all of the actions we've made. And he takes that huge ego that we all enter the book with and he kind of breaks it down and says, listen, that's not going to happen. One of the most intriguing things about this book is all of the connections and all of the kind of topics and ideas that I was able to reference and that I saw him reference in his book without him always explicitly having to mention. One of the explicit mentions was the 12-step program and the idea behind the 12-step program and sobriety. Essentially, in the 12-step program, one of the first things that everyone says, the first step is acknowledging that you're an alcoholic, right? That you have a problem. And trust me, I know it's a little crazy referencing the 12-step program in a book that's supposed to be about time management, but the way Berkman does it is he tries to draw a parallel between alcoholics and their need for alcohol and people that are struggling with time management and their need or their thought that they need more time and that more time is going to solve all of their problems. The official first step of the 12-step program, as outlined by Alcoholics Anonymous, is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Berkman tries to draw the same parallels with time management, that the first step in becoming truly great and managing your time is acknowledging that your life is unmanageable. And the reason why it's unmanageable is because you are trying to control time. In a similar sense, Berkman makes the argument that the first step in getting better at time management is acknowledging that you will never beat time, that time will always be finite and there is nothing you can do about it. He expands on this by saying that the reason why people have anxiety and the reason why we always feel on edge is because deep down, we know that we do not have time to do every single thing that we want to do. However, instead of acknowledging and facing this fact, we turn away from it. We try and find as many life hacks as we can to save time, when really all we should be doing is acknowledging the fact that we will not be able to accomplish all of our hundreds and hundreds of goals, and we instead have to focus on a much smaller list of things that we are capable of doing. It does tend to get a little bit sad at points where you kind of go through this realization as you're reading the book that he's right and that everything that you wanted to do, all of the big ideas, or if you have a huge bucket list of you want to travel to all these different countries, you want to publish all these books, you want to get really good at exercising, you want to be an actress, all of those different things, if you focus on too much, you will not be able to accomplish everything. So he does kind of like make that argument, breaks down your ego, and it does at times get a little bit sad. But with this idea of life being finite, Berkman also argues that that is what makes life special. If life were not finite, and if we all didn't realize that it was going to end, what would make it unique or nice? Overall, the book was very thought-provoking and it had a lot of ideas that I could connect to other authors and other books. A couple of things holding this book back were definitely the repetitiveness. I think the author spent a little bit too long introducing the idea in the first 3 chapters. I was dangerously close to not finishing that book, and it wasn't until around 40-50 pages where I felt the author really expand on his argument instead of repeating the same concepts over and over again. I highly recommend this for anyone that is interested in philosophy or just wants a different take on time management. This was definitely one of the most different ideas that I've seen when it comes to time management. I'm sure other people have brought them up, but me personally, I had never picked up a book like this. This book is not meant for anybody looking for life hacks. I've seen books where it's kind of just talking about mindfulness and how that can help you get more things done in your day. This is not that type of book where he kind of tells you how to organize your day and how to prioritize. Instead, it's more so a self-reflection on the concept of time and what you can do with what you have. So if you aren't sure if you're interested in reading this book or if you're thinking this is not the time management book for you, just know that even though I made it sound really depressing, Bergman does offer concrete and helpful pieces of advice. One of the most helpful is what he calls failing on a cyclical basis. So because you hopefully come to the realization when reading this book that life is finite and that all of the time that you have will eventually run out, he recommends doing something called failing on a cyclical basis, where essentially you focus all of your energies on one or two things and you make sure that you can do them to the best of your ability while knowing that other facets of your life may not get all of those accomplishments. One of the examples he points is that maybe for a couple of months you're just going with the flow at work and you're not going above and beyond because your home life needs you to be the parent or the person and the partner that your family needs. And maybe sometimes you are leaning on other members of your family to kind of step up while you focus on something specific like preparing to run a marathon or writing that first novel. So he does recommend and does give some small tidbits on how you can kind of utilize your new perspective on time management, but it is not the traditional quote unquote, this is your first step, second step, third step when it comes to thinking of a self-help book. Well, I hope that was helpful and I hope that you all enjoyed this review of 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Immortals. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.